and thereafter the delimitation act will have to be passed, the delimitation of Uttaranchal would have taken place. In the Uttar Pradesh Reorganization Act 2000, from section 22 onwards, there is a specific provision with regard to delimitation of constituencies both in Uttar Pradesh and Uttaranchal. And for the purposes of the Uttaranchal delimitation, since the number of constituencies has increased now to 70, I understand that the process of delimitation has already begun. And since that process has already begun, it has begun under the present law as it exists today. And the present law as it exists today refers to the 1971 census as the basis. It may be likely that by the time it is completed, we may have the new constitution amendment coming into force. If we are confronted with that situation, there is a specific provision for removal of difficulties in the UP Reorganization Act, and appropriate measures will be taken to make sure that that process is not disrupted and the process which is starting is taken to its logical conclusion in accordance with the law itself. The exact number of seats some members wanted to know that would increase in the case of the SC/ST, because this is not a new provision which we are adding, but this is a provision in the existing constitution in Article 330 that the number of seats to be reserved for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes will be in proportion to the population. And once those seats are fixed in accordance with the 1991 census, which is made the basis here, that is an exercise which the Delimitation Commission itself would have to undertake. And the approximate figures are being mentioned around 6 or 7, but the exact figure and the states where this increase would have taken place, I have got the figures of 1991 as the increase. In some states, in fact, there is a reduction in the population. In most states, there is an increase in the population, and a large part of the increase is confined to those areas where a number of new castes have been added to the list of SC and ST. That's the basis for it, but the exact figure would be known only when the Delimitation Commission undertakes that entire exercise. Some members also raised this question as to that the bill in itself is not complete, because what is the basis on which delimitation would be done? Who would do the delimitation? That's an exercise which this entire House will have an opportunity to consider in the Delimitation Act when it is brought up before the House. All those details will be mentioned in the Delimitation Act itself. A commission would be constituted, the composition of the commission, what is going to be the personnel, how are the political parties of different regions going to be involved in that process. That's an entire exercise which will be handled by the specific, which will be dealt with by the specific legislation which is passed. A question was also raised as to how are you linking it to the family planning program itself. Well, I had made a brief statement with regard to this in the opening comments, where I had stated that the rationale behind freezing of the seats at the level at which they were fixed in 1976 is essentially this, that there are a number of states which have been able to stabilize the population growth. Now, if those states are confronted with a situation that because they are achieving a population stabilization target, their representation in the parliament will come down, this is likely to become a disincentive for those states in successfully implementing the family planning programs. And similarly, the states which do not implement the program successfully will find as a result of their failure to implement the program, their representation in parliament would increase. Therefore, that this rationale should not prevail, and this policy should not really interfere with deter the implementation of the family planning program. So irrespective of whether your population is stabilized, increasing or decreasing, the number of seats would be fixed. And the reason why 2026 has been chosen as the target date, that's the anticipated date which experts have all fixed in the national population policy itself. Now, whether we are able to achieve this or not will depend on how the central government performs, how the state governments performs, and how various family planning schemes itself are implemented. But that's the target projection date. In case we feel a question has been raised, and at least two members, Mr. Nayyar also raised it, are you going a bit too far by fixing it for till 2026? You are therefore effectively binding down 5 different houses which are in normal course likely to be constituted if elections are held every 5 years. Well, we are taking a conscious decision because of this target date of 2026. We are but it will be always open if you achieve those targets and this House wants to at this stage, or both houses of parliament want to change this date at any stage, or for that matter at a later stage, even if this House wants to reconsider this question of the delimitation of the constituencies for which we are fixing the 1991 target. Once the 2011 figures are available or the 2021 figures are available, for those houses which exist at that time, it will always be open to reconsider those issues. But as at present advised, and this has been the general consensus through the standing committees which has emerged, that 2026 itself should be fixed as the date in question. Just 2 or 3 more questions. With regard to the rotation principle, it is not covered by this amendment, and therefore the standing committee did not go into this question. It is not covered by this issue. If at all it ever arises, it will have to be taken up separately. Again, a comment was made as to why are we not going to the 2001 census and going back to the 1991 census. As I explained, last time the process of delimitation took 4 years to be completed. The Delimitation Commission was constituted in 1972. It finished its exercise in 1976. This time it is expected to be done much earlier, essentially because of new technologies, computers available. Also because the exercise is slightly smaller, the number of seats are not increasing, but it is still a formidable exercise. And I have consulted the experts, and they feel it will still take some time. And the earliest that the census figures are going to be officially available is the very end of 2002. And therefore, if we start by the very end of 2002, even if it is available, and the figure spills into sometime like 2004, members of Lok Sabha and state assemblies perhaps would not know till a few days before the elections itself as to which constituencies and what is the shape of those constituencies going to be. And therefore, it has been considered, and that was the consensus, that instead of going into that area of uncertainty, it would be better for presently to stick to the census figures available of 1991, and the delimitation exercise can start immediately. A question which Mr. Nayyar had raised, in fact some other experts have also raised this question. I have read some articles to that effect. On account of the population stabilization program, you are now freezing the number of seats for each state, so that one state which defaults doesn't get a comparative benefit or advantage over another state. But within the state, why don't you permit the number of seats for the assembly to be increased? Now this is a question which he had, in fact in the standing committee also there was a note circulated by him. I have gone through the proceedings of the standing committee, and when it was considered in 1976 and even earlier, on both occasions the same logic has been applied to the Lok Sabha seats as also to the state assembly seats. If a state's population is increasing, don't give it the advantage of increasing the number of seats as far as the state itself is concerned. And when this view was considered, this is the exact response which the standing committee through its chairman had to this particular query, that the past practice has been that when we are freezing it for both. And also additionally, we do not want any kind of an incentive given in a state to increase the number of seats merely because the state continues to increase its, is not able to implement the population stabilization program itself. So with these comments, I have tried to respond to a number of suggestions which have been raised by the honorable members. I am extremely grateful to them for having supported this particular legislation, and I propose to the honorable House that this constitution amendment which has been considered be approved by the honorable House.
Including by Mr. क्या क्लियर
ये जो नया रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन जो बना, स्टेट अलग अलग हुए हैं, उत्तरांचल के लिए तो नियम बन गया कि 27 का 70 बढ़ जाएगा, वहाँ के लिए कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। मध्य प्रदेश और छत्तीसगढ़ का जहाँ तक सवाल है, वहाँ की स्थिति 3 कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी बड़ा उससे प्रभावित हो गया लोकसभा की। सीधी 6 सेगमेंट पे लोकसभा की सीट हो गई, और इधर छत्तीसगढ़ में 9 सीट के 2 पार्लियामेंट सीट हो गए, बिलासपुर और सरगुजा। 90 सीट से आप बढ़ाएंगे नहीं, 8 सेगमेंट पे 1 कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी है वहाँ पे लोकसभा की, तो 2 कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी तो 9 सीट पे हो जाएगा और बाकी सब 8 पे होंगे। तो वहाँ या तो वो 2 सीट कम करें या फिर 9 सीट बढ़ाएं, ताकि वो सब सीट का एक तरीके समावेश हो सके। इसलिए मैं मंत्री जी से निवेदन करना चाहूँगा कि इसके ऊपर विशेष ध्यान दें, क्योंकि उसमें जो एक अभी ला रहे हैं उसमें इस तरीके का कोई प्रावधान नहीं कि सीट बढ़े, लेकिन उसके लिए जब तक इस तरीके की स्थिति को निराकरण नहीं होगा तब तक उनके साथ न्याय नहीं हो पाएगा। इस पर विशेष ध्यान दें, यही मेरा आपसे निवेदन है।
बनेगी, उसका भी आपको रास्ता निकालना पड़ेगा।
मैडम, ऐसी जिस प्रकार से उत्तर प्रदेश का रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन एक्ट पारित किया था, उसी प्रकार से मध्य प्रदेश का भी रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन एक्ट है, और उस एक्ट के भीतर डीलिमिटेशन ऑफ कंस्टिट्यूएंसीज वहां कैसे होंगी और जो कुछ इधर थोड़ी सी रह गई और दूसरी तरफ रह गई, उस सब के सिद्धांत जो डीलिमिटेशन के है उसका इंतजाम उसके अंदर है। और इलेक्शन कमीशन उत्तरांचल का इसलिए कर रहा है क्योंकि वहां अभी चुनाव की स्थिति आने वाली है, और अगर किसी प्रांत जो नए प्रांत राज्य बने हैं उसका चुनाव बाद में होना है, तो जिस वक्त डीलिमिटेशन एक्ट आएगा तो उस वक्त ये दोबारा पुनः इस पे विचार किया जा सकता है कि उसका भी उसका डीलिमिटेशन का तरीका इन एक्ट के तहत हो या जो सिद्धांत डीलिमिटेशन एक्ट के अंदर हम बनाएंगे उसके तहत हो। तो इसका प्रावधान डीलिमिटेशन का मध्य प्रदेश रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन एक्ट में भी है।
थैंक यू।
उत्तरांचल में 70 लिखा है, इधर लिखा नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है। उत्तरांचल में लिखा है कि 70 सीट होंगी, इन दो राज्यों में नहीं लिखा, वो ये कह रहे हैं।
Madam,
उनको जवाब देने दीजिए तो ज्यादा
the
बेहतर
reason
है।
for this is under Article 170, the minimum number of constituencies in a state has to be 60. Since Uttaranchal was the only state where it was originally less than 60, so it was necessary to increase it in the case of Uttaranchal and not in the other two states.
Now, I shall now put the motion for consideration of the bill to vote. The question is that the bill further to amend the Constitution of India as passed by the Lok Sabha be taken into consideration. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. I think the ayes have it. Under the Article 368 of the Constitution, the motion will have to be adopted by a majority of the total membership of the House and by a majority of not less than 2/3 of the members of the House present and voting. A division. सेक्रेटरी जनरल, आप एक्सप्लेन कर दीजिए, नए कुछ मेंबर होंगे। प्रोसीजर, हाँ, डिवीजन बेल हो रही है उसके साथ साथ। या डिवीजन मीन्स लॉबी शुड बी क्लियर, इट्स अंडरस्टूड। हाँ, वेट, आई थिंक ऑल द न्यू मेंबर्स फ्रॉम तमिलनाडु ओनली टू ओथ नाउ। Doesn't matter. Let the lobbies be cleared.
Strangers to be withdrawn.
Bell is ringing. Bell is ringing.
Bell is ringing.
One person is not there. Sukhdev Singh Dhinsa. Dhinsa ji should go there now. Chitranjan should have been there. Chitranjan nahi. Bell are ringing. SG sir is speaking something? Bell is ringing or still ringing? From your own home you will vote? You can vote from your own homes? E-Parliament. And there won't be any well and there won't be any need to take them out. Nobody. No chairperson.
Lobby is clear.
Then you, Mr. Secretary General, the lobbies are cleared and you may read out the procedure. The new member should please listen carefully and take the help of the old member next to you.
Honorable members, for your convenience, I shall explain the voting procedure by automatic vote recording system. It may be noted that each member has been provided with an integrated microphone and voting console containing 4 buttons: P for present, A for ayes, O for abstention, and N for noes. There is also a separately situated security button in red, which means vote activation, provided on the language selector. A red LED vote now lighting during the vote period indicates that the voting functions are operational and active. To record a vote, a member has to press the vote activation button and one of the voting buttons of his choice, ayes, noes, abstention, simultaneously. Each voting button has an assigned LED indicating the correct and valid voting function as long as a button is pressed together with the vote activation button. The voting process starts with a musical sound on the large screen hall display in the 2 corners of the chamber. Each member has to keep the voting button as well as vote activation button pressed simultaneously for 10 seconds. That is, at the time of closing of voting, in order to register a valid vote, both the buttons should be pressed simultaneously. During the voting period, the member can change his vote at any time. The vote cast at the time when the voting period is ending will be valid. That is, buttons kept pressed at the 10th second, counted in reverse, will be recorded. In case either one or both the buttons are released prior to the close of voting period, the vote will not be registered. Countdown time is indicated on the display board. If a member finds that he has voted by mistake by pressing a wrong button, he can be allowed to correct his mistake.
He or she, both.
The member can be allowed to correct his mistake,
Gender bias.
provided he brings it to the notice of the chairman before the result of division is announced.
Now I'll put the question again. The question is that the bill further to amend the Constitution of India as passed by the Lok Sabha be taken into consideration. Those in favor will please say aye. Those against will please say no. I think the ayes have a division.
I am starting the voting process.
कौन से दो एब्सेंट?
This is subject to correction.
Absent. Biplab Babu, you have been absent for a long time, so you are still thinking you are absent? Who else is absent? One, two, three, four, five. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 242. Qureshi. Mr. Qureshi. Two 242 is absent. Your vote is not registered. Absent. Corrected. हाँ? Absent कर रहे हैं शायद वो तो कर ही रहे हैं. They don't even know how to look at the board.
इस महत्वपूर्ण बिल पर मतदान के समय सरकार के सहयोगी दल के सदस्य शिवसेना के सदस्य भी मौजूद नहीं है. ये सरकार के लिए उल्टी गिनती आज से प्रारंभ हो गई है.
इस सदन में न उल्टी गिनती होती है न सुलटी गिनती होती है, इसलिए इस सदन की गिनती मत करिए. गिनती जिधर होती है उधर सब ठीक है.
आप भी प्रमोद जी, आप इसी हाउस के मेंबर हैं.
को आ गया.
आप उसको जरा डेनिग्रेट मत करिए. Three, 54, 56, 156. नोज तो नील है. इतना क्या काउंट करने को लगता है? चार पांच वोट हैं, इससे इतना टाइम कैसे लग रहा है? आई थिंक द बिल इज पास सब्जेक्ट टू करेक्शन. आई थिंक अकॉर्डिंग टू द मशीन इज 52, 3, 4, 53, 54, 55. Come on. Our calculations are very bad. The next voting I'll have. हाँ बोलिए.
Ayes 166, noes nil.
Honorable members, ayes 100 please. Ayes 166, noes nil. The motion is adopted by a majority of the total membership of the House and by a majority of not less than 2/3 of the members of the House present and voting. Yeah, subject to correction. Now there are 2 to 7 clause. If the House so agrees, I'll take all of them together. Because we have a convention where we have taken it before. We shall now take up clause by clause consideration of the bill. Clause 2 to 7 stand part of the bill. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. I think the ayes have it. Division.
I am starting the voting procedure.
I think 4 people subject to correction. 166 ayes and noes nil. Clause 2 to 7 are adopted by a majority of the total membership of the House and by a majority of the not less than 2/3 of the members of the House present and voting. Now we'll take clause 1, the enacting formula and the title stand part of the bill. The question is, clause 1, the enacting formula and the title stand part of the bill. Those in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. I think the ayes have a division.
I am starting the procedure.
इसके बाद सुरेश पचौरी से कहना कि वो आ जाए. Oh. Great improvement. Subject to correction. Subject to correction. Ayes 166, noes nil. Clause 1, the enacting formula and the title are adopted by a majority of the total membership of the House and by a majority of not less than 2/3 of the members of the House present in voting. Oh no, that will come. It is one person has still to learn. Now, Mr. Arun Jaitley, to move that the bill be passed.
Well, I move that the bill be passed.
Motion move that the bill be passed. The question is that the bill be passed. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against will please say no. I think the ayes have a division. At least this time there should be no mistakes.
I am starting the process.
BSc में तो मुझे भी जाना है. Somebody has to. हाँ, चतुर्वेदी because I have to go for the BSc and I have a meeting. सब दो लोग बैठे हैं अभी मेरे There is some members on a de-learning process. Subject to correction, the ayes are 166, noes are nil. The motion is adopted by a majority of the total membership of the House and by a majority of not less than 2/3 of the members of the House present and voting. The bill is passed by the required majority. Thank you. मुझे जाना है चतुर्वेदी सबको. No, I have to go. Now we have the Code of Criminal Procedure. Huh? No salaries. People didn't vote correctly. मुझे BSc में जाना है. हाँ, मैं कह दूँ.
सर आ गए आते हमको बुला.
Shri, shall we? Shri Arun Jaitley to move a motion for consideration of the Code of Criminal Procedure Amendment Bill 2001.
Sir, I beg to move that the Code of Criminal Procedure Amendment Bill 2001 be taken up for consideration and passage by this Honorable House. Sir, this particular amendment to the Code of Criminal Procedure is sought to be introduced into the provisions of Section 125 of the CRPC. There are several crucial amendments which are being made to this provision. This was a provision which was enacted in the Code of Criminal Procedure for the protection of those family members who were otherwise unable to maintain themselves, namely wives, children, and aged parents. In the year 1955, the maximum amount that could be paid to them was fixed. And that amount of rupees 500 was fixed in the year 1955. And in 1973, when we incorporated the new CRPC, we continued with the same amount. So this amount has been continued for more than 45 years. And on account of the increase in the cost of living, there have been repeated demands and suggestions made that this amount be increased. In fact, the Law Commission at one stage had suggested that this be increased to an amount of rupees 5,000. The government took those factors into consideration and was of the opinion that since it has to be fixed by judicial orders, and this must be in consonance with the requirement of the wives, the children, the aged parents, and also the paying capacity of the husband, or the son or the father as the case may be, there was no need to maintain that cap of rupees 500, and therefore that cap of rupees 500 is sought to be removed. The other amendment is that there was an ambiguity whether there was a provision for payment of interim maintenance under this provision or not. The judicial opinion at some stage recently was that interim directions can also be passed, but that is being clarified by a specific amendment that interim maintenance can also be paid under this provision. Just as we approved yesterday, sir, the marriage laws amendment bill, there is a corresponding amendment in this also, that the interim maintenance amounts would be directed to be paid as far as possible within a period of 60 days of the service of the notice of the application to a person who is liable to pay the amount. There is also a clarificatory amendment to the fact that the maintenance would not only cover the maintenance amounts, but it would also cover the expenses of the proceedings itself. There are then corresponding changes which are suggested to section 127 and 128 on account of these amendments. I propose to the Honourable House that this bill be taken up for consideration and passage by the House.
Motion moved. Shri B.P. Singhal.
These amendments actually are the natural concomitants that must follow with the devaluation of the rupee, and I don't suppose there is much to discuss in this respect.
So you support the amendment?
I support the amendment.
Thank you. Srimati Bharti Ray.
Yes, sir. I move the amendment, sir. And you know this, the bill, I appreciate the bill that has come, but there are the social, it is, I must thank the law minister for bringing a progressive legislation. But I want to add that since he brought this bill, showing concern for the helpless wife, children and parents, which is very important, I suggest some amendments. Because I feel point 1 is that the concept of shared household is very important. It does not sort of prevent women and dependent parents or children from being dispossessed from shelter or from domestic violence. Provision should be made so that the dependent wife or dependent parents or children can stay in their marital home or in the house which they share together and cannot be thrown out, and if thrown out, be put back. That right, there should be there, that provision should be there. This is point 1. And point 2 is that the husband can always understate his income. Therefore, wives often do not know the husband's earnings. Therefore, the husband must, while deciding the amount of maintenance, the husband's lifestyle should be taken into account. And the third point, and very important point which I want to make, that there should also be an easy way of recovering the amount of maintenance, because a man often evades orders, and another legal suit will be necessary to force him to pay maintenance. I suggest that the attachment of his salary or debt is made. This would make it easier for the complainant to obtain the compensation. And having said this, sir, I move the amendments.
Thank you. Srimati Vanga Ganga. Srimati Saroj Dubey. And Raghu.
माननीय सभापति महोदय, मैं ये द कोड ऑफ क्रिमिनल प्रोसीजर अमेंडमेंट बिल 2001 का तहे दिल से स्वागत करती हूँ और इसका समर्थन भी करती हूँ, क्योंकि ये देश के हर कोने कोने से महिला संगठन की भी मांग थी और मेरा भी प्राइवेट मेंबर बिल गुजारा भत्ता राशि बढ़ाने और उसकी समय सीमा तय करने से संबंधित बहुत दिनों से पेंडिंग था, लेकिन मंत्री जी इस संशोधन को लाए, इसके लिए मैं उनकी खुले दिल से प्रशंसा करती हूँ। इस संशोधन के माध्यम से आपने पीड़ित महिला के हाथ में एक ऐसा संबल थमा दिया जो गुजारा भत्ता की जो न्यायिक प्रक्रिया का जो दुरूह मार्ग है वो इस संबल के सहारे बहुत दूर तक जा पाएगी, अपना मंजिल तय कर पाएगी, ऐसा मेरा विश्वास है। आपने जो 500 रुपए की ये जो सीमा हटाई, ये बहुत ही अच्छा कदम है, क्योंकि आज के दिनों में 500 रुपए का कोई मायने नहीं होता है और पहले जो 500 रुपए था तो 500 रुपए भी कोई पूरा नहीं देता था। मैंने उन महिलाओं को भी देखा है जिनको 40 रुपए गुजारा भत्ता मिला, किसी को 80 रुपए गुजारा भत्ता मिला। इसलिए आपने जो इसकी सीमा हटा दी, अधिकतम सीमा हटा दी, वो बहुत ही अच्छा किया, वरना एक धनवान और एक रिक्शे वाला और एक शिक्षक तीनों ही 500 रुपए की सीमा में बंधे रहते थे। और दूसरा ये जो आपने 60 दिन के अंदर जो किया है, इसकी समय सीमा तय की है, तो इसमें मैं दोनों तरफ से ही बोलना चाहूँगी। अगर महिलाओं के पक्ष से बोलना चाहती हूँ तो मैं ये कहूँगी कि 60 दिन की समय सीमा बहुत अधिक है। 2 महीने का समय बिना पैसे के काट लेना महिलाओं के लिए बहुत ही कठिन हो जाता है, इसलिए इसे घटाकर 1 महीने के लिए कर दिया जाए। और अगर मैं कानूनी प्रक्रिया के तहत इस बात को कहना चाहती हूँ तो मैं ये कहना चाहती हूँ कि ये 60 दिन का समय और आपकी जो न्यायिक प्रक्रिया है जिसकी गति अति धीमी है, इसमें जो सम्मन निकलते निकलते बहुत देर लगती है, फिर सम्मन को पहुँचाना, फिर उसको घर पे पहुँचाना, फिर वो हस्बैंड जो है लेता नहीं है, फिर उसके बाद क्या कहते हैं वो जो ले जाने लाने वाले हैं, सब एक मिली भगत हो जाती है। नतीजा ये होता है कि सम्मन हो ही नहीं पाता है और ये 60 दिन की सीमा के भीतर ये हो नहीं पाएगा। इसलिए या तो आप अपनी और उसके बाद जजेस की कमी होती है, कोर्ट नहीं बैठते हैं, कभी वकील बीमार हो जाता है, मतलब तमाम ऐसी बाधाएं हैं जो 60 दिन के समय के अंदर पूरी नहीं हो पाएंगी। तो मैं ये चाहती कोई अतिरिक्त ढांचा भी बनाने का कोई प्रावधान रखें ताकि 60 दिन के अंदर ये सारी न्यायिक प्रक्रिया पूरी हो पाए। और अगर ऐसा नहीं हो पाता है तो एक्स पार्टी इंटरिम ऑर्डर करना चाहिए ताकि सम्मन का कोई झंझट ही नहीं रहे। जब महिला का आवेदन पत्र आए उसके बाद उसको एक्स पार्टी मेंटेनेंस, इंटरिम मेंटेनेंस मिल जाए और जब उसका नोटिस उसके पास जाएगा तो उसका पति या पिता जो भी होगा वो अपना आके कोर्ट में गुहार करेगा और उसको न्याय मिल जाएगा। तो इस तरह से मैं ये भी कहना चाहती हूँ कि 60 दिन की जो प्रक्रिया है इस पर ध्यान, आप एक्स पार्टी जो इंटरिम ऑर्डर है वो आपको कर देना चाहिए, नहीं तो 60 दिन के अंदर ये प्रक्रिया आपकी कानूनी नहीं पूरी हो पाएगी। जैसा कि आपको मालूम है एक दिन में 200 400 एप्लीकेशन आ जाती है, कितने केस पेंडिंग पड़े हुए हैं, तो इनको कौन सुनेगा। अगर वृद्ध माता पिता हैं वो भी कुछ नहीं कर पाएंगे, बच्चा है उसकी तो बात दूसरी है, और महिलाएं तो कतई, क्योंकि पुरुष की ये पति की ये धारणा होती है कि महिला को आर्थिक रूप से विकलांग बना दो, वो कुछ नहीं कर पाएगी। तो इसलिए मेरा आपसे अनुरोध है कि अगर एक्स पार्टी ऑर्डर, इंटरिम ऑर्डर आप करने का कोई प्रावधान इसमें ले आए तो कम से कम जैसे ही महिला घर से बाहर मिले 15-20 दिन में उनको कुछ एक लमसम गुजारा भत्ता मिल जाए ताकि वो अगला जीवन सुधार पाए।
धन्यवाद। और भी अभी कुछ आपका समय हो गया का?
वैसे आप
समय काफी हो गया उससे, फिर भी
और 2-3 बातें बोलना चाहते हैं जो हम पिछले बार भी बोल चुके हैं, फिर भी हम अपनी बातों पे आप स्टैंड करते हैं कि महिलाओं को सबसे बड़ी समस्या होती है, जैसे कि उन्हें इंटरिम भत्ता का अगर आवेदन पत्र दे दिया तो उनको ये साबित करना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है कि वो उनकी पत्नी है, तो शादी ही नहीं साबित हो पाती है तो भत्ता गुजारा की तो बात ही दूसरी है। और दूसरे जैसे ही पति पत्नी में अनबन होती है, वो घर से बाहर जाती है, पति अपनी बेरोजगारी सिद्ध करने लगता है, तो इन सारी बातों को साबित करने के लिए भी महिलाओं को बहुत दिक्कत होती है। तो कुछ ऐसा आपको न्यायिक प्रक्रिया में लाना चाहिए कि कोर्ट की तरफ से जांच पड़ताल हो कि पति की आमदनी कितनी है और वो शादीशुदा उसकी पत्नी है। इन दो बातों को साबित करने के लिए पत्नी को बहुत ही मुश्किल उठानी पड़ती है। और तीसरी बात मैंने ये कही थी कि अगर पति पत्नी का झगड़ा होता है, कल माननीय मंत्री जी उसको अच्छी तरह से नहीं मान पाए, लेकिन मैं फिर उस बात पे स्टैंड करूंगी।
वो याद रख रहे हैं सब बातें।
मैं फिर कहेंगे कि अगर पति पत्नी का झगड़ा होता है, वो एक घर में रहते हैं, तो पत्नी को घर छोड़ने के लिए विवश नहीं होना चाहिए। वो भी उसी घर में, आधे घर में वो रहेगी, आधे घर में पत्नी रहेगी, इसका प्रावधान होना चाहिए। अगर उसकी जान को खतरा है और रिपोर्ट करती है तो उसको पुलिस प्रोटेक्शन मिलना चाहिए, क्योंकि वो क्यों घर के बाहर जाए। जब समानता का दावा है, जब पुरुष स्त्री समानता के दावा में रह रहे हैं, पति पत्नी एक गाड़ी के दो पहिए माने जाते हैं, तो फिर एक महिला क्यों घर से निकल कर जाए? क्यों नहीं पुरुष घर से निकल के जाए? कुछ ऐसे भी उदाहरण देखे जाते कि पुरुष निकाल दिया गया, तो ऐसा नहीं होता है। इसलिए मैं ये कहना चाहती हूँ कि इस बात को जरूर ध्यान दें, क्योंकि आपका गुजारा भत्ता 2 महीने बाद मिलेगा, तब तक उस महिला जो परित्यक्ता है उसको कोई अपने घर में शरण नहीं देता, अपने बच्चों को लेके भटकती रहती है। ना आपके शॉर्ट स्टे होम में जगह उसको मिलती, कहीं जगह नहीं मिलती, उसकी बड़ी दयनीय स्थिति आ जाती है और अपनी इज्जत बचानी मुश्किल हो जाती है। जो पति अपने पैसे के दम पर उसको धमकाता रहता है कि चुपचाप गांव वापस चली जाओ, नहीं तो तुमको जान से मार देंगे, तुम्हारे बच्चे उठवा लेंगे, इस तरह की आफतें आती रहती है। चौथी बात मैं फिर कहना चाहूंगी कि जब पत्नी को घर से निकाला जाता है तो उसके सामाजिक सम्मान में क्षति होती है, उसको मानसिक आघात पहुंचता है। तो इस मानसिक आघात और सामाजिक सम्मान की जो क्षतिपूर्ति है, उसका भी एक प्रावधान होना चाहिए कि भैया हम इज्जत से रहने हैं, कल आपने हमको सड़क पे भेज दिया, तो अगर कोई एक्सीडेंट होता है तो उसके क्षतिपूर्ति की जाती है। तो महिलाओं को जो मानसिक आघात पहुंचता है, जो क्षतिपूर्ति जो उनको क्या होता है मानसिक आघात पहुंचता है, उसकी क्यों नहीं क्षतिपूर्ति की जाएगी? उसके क्षतिपूर्ति का भी एक प्रावधान होना चाहिए। साथ ही साथ एक और बहाना लगा दिया, वो कहीं 200 रुपए भी पा रही है, छोटी सी प्राइमरी स्कूल में भी टीचर है, तुरंत कह दिया जाएगा तो रोजगार पा रही है। लेकिन ये भी ध्यान रखना चाहिए कि अगर उसको छोटी सी कहीं तनख्वाह मिल रही है तो उसमें गुजारा भत्ता रोकने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है, क्योंकि 200 रुपया में उसका क्या होता है? पति के साथ जिस स्टैंडर्ड से रहती थी, उसी लाइफस्टाइल से, जैसे कि भारती जी ने कहा, उसी लाइफस्टाइल से पति के घर में जैसे रहती थी वैसे ही रहने लायक गुजारा भत्ता देना चाहिए, क्योंकि इसमें मजिस्ट्रेट को, जज को अथाह पावर मिल जाती है, वो कुछ भी कर सकता है। सर जल्दी न कर, हम खत्म कर रहे हैं। महिलाओं का मामला आता है तो आप लोग बहुत जल्दी हो जाती है।
पुनः धन्यवाद सरोज जी।
नहीं अभी
नहीं, अब समय का 2 मिनट की जगह इतना, प्लीज नो।
इन बिलों का भी वही होगा जैसे आज तक इतने कानून महिलाओं के लिए बनाए गए हैं, समान वेतन, समान,
आपकी बातें वो सब जवाब देंगे,
सारी बातें बनाई गई। नहीं, हम कहाँ विरोध कर रहे हैं? तो उसी तरह से जैसे आज तक उनको महिलाओं को समान वेतन नहीं,
थोड़ा समय का ध्यान रखें,
तो वैसे ही इसमें भी हो जाएगा कि वो 60 दिन का समय सीमा और यथासंभव। इसमें लिखा है कि जहाँ तक संभव हो, जहां तक संभव हो वाली लाइन लेके पति गायब हो जाएगा, कभी वो संभव नहीं होगा, कोई मेंटेनेंस नहीं मिलेगा। 60 दिन की वो समय सीमा का मखौल उड़ जाएगा और पत्नी बेचारी वैसे ही परेशान होती रहेगी, वृद्ध माता। इसलिए आप ये लाए, बहुत अच्छा एक कदम तो उठाया आपने। हम लोगों की बहुत दिनों से मांग थी, मैंने बताया मेरा भी प्राइवेट मेंबर बिल पेंडिंग है, इसलिए आपने बहुत अच्छा कदम, मैं खुले दिल से इसका स्वागत करती हूँ। लेकिन आप मन में सोच लें कि जो बातें हम लोग जो सुझाव दे रहे हैं अपने मन से नहीं दे रहे, हम लोग इस आंदोलन को 20-25 साल से चला रहे हैं, तो उस आंदोलन के आधार पर मैं आपको बताना चाहती हूँ। तो इन बातों पर भी विचार करें। आप प्रगतिशील विचारधारा के हैं और मुझे लगता है कि महिलाओं को कुछ आप अपने समानता देना चाहते हैं, तो इन बातों के लिए भी आप कुछ आश्वासन दें कि तुरंत आप कोई व्यापक संशोधन लाएंगे, ताकि महिलाएं भी समाज में बराबरी का दावा करते हुए सम्मान के साथ जी सके। इन शब्दों के साथ मैं आपके इस संशोधन का भारी स्वागत करती हूँ, समर्थन करती हूँ।
धन्यवाद। श्रीमती वंगा गीता।
Thank you, sir.
ये तो खत्म करनी है।
I support this bill. I am congratulating the government on its progressive decision to amend Section 125 CRPC. It has been common experience that a woman files an application in a court for a maintenance. She has to wait the years together for getting relief from the court. She is put to great mental agony and financial difficulty till the court grants her allowance. Keeping the difficulty of the woman the government has brought forward the enactments. The objective of the section is to mandate the husband, the earning member of the family, to share certain amounts out of his earnings or to pay certain amounts to the wife and children who are dependents upon him. The section was introduced to ensure minimum social security to the dependents. The cost of living and the cost of bare necessities are increasing day by day. Now it is proposed that the pendency of the proceedings in the court, the magistrate could order payment of reasonable interim maintenance allowance and expenses of the proceedings, keeping in view of rising cost of living. The court order will be within 60 days of the notice. In furtherance of the achieving the objectives of section, further contemplates a reasonable amount of rupees 500 can be granted towards maintenance by the courts. As a matter of fact, since the court contemplates for 500 rupees, most of the courts are awarding an amount of less than 500 rupees, some of times even half of it, in which the case great hardship is being faced by the dependents. It is a welcoming step to remove the ceiling of rupees 500 and give free hand to the courts to award suitable amount towards the maintenance. I want to suggest 2 points here. The law required to be further amended that if appeal is to be filed, the same shall be entertained only payment of 50% of amount awarded, and no appellate court shall grant stay of execution the order of maintenance without depositing 50% of award of amount. It will also advisable to put a time limit for a disposal of application filed under section 125 CRPC. The trial court shall be made accountable to the concerned judges, portfolio judge of High Court, in case if the trial court fail to dispose the application within the stipulated time. I would conclude my
Please.
appealing to the government to amend various provisions in different enactments counseling mentioned disputes. There is a need to have comprehensive approach toward the matrimonial problems. Sir, I request failure of marriage should not be viewed as a problem of individual, but it should be treated as a problem of the society at large. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Sri CP Thirukarasu. Vakrasu.
I welcome the amendment to the CRPC, the bill that has been brought by the Law Ministry. The silent features of this legislation is the application of maintenance is fixed by a first-class magistrate, a court which is available to every citizen in every taluk. So, an easy accessibility is there under section 125 CRPC. And the court fee that has been fixed, as far as these cases are concerned, only 75 naya paise, not more than that. They are not charging ad valorem court fee. Also, a cheap remedy is available as far as the citizens are concerned. Irrespective of any religion, a Christian, a Mohammedan, Jain, Hindu, Anglo-Indian or any other sect can approach the criminal court and ask for the remedy. There is no religion. Irrespective of the religion, the maintenance has been awarded by this court. Providing us, this is a summary in nature and it can be disposed of as quick as possible and there is no possibility of any delay in these matters. So, taking into consideration of these facts, even in the year of 1886, when the CRP was framed, the English people have been incorporated these provisions of law into this act. As far as the interim maintenance are concerned, the Supreme Court has said and the High Court has granted the interim maintenance for some time. The magistrates, of course, have no power at all to grant the interim maintenance. Taking that fact into consideration, the Law Minister has incorporated those provisions of interim maintenance in this Act. My only one doubt with regard to that is, want to suggest is, as far as the interim maintenance are concerned, that if the court has granted interim maintenance, there should not be any revision before the appellate court. That should be incorporated. Otherwise, they file an appeal before the High Court and other proceedings and they get a stay. And then, as far as the enhancement of maintenance are concerned, the provisions of Section 127 CRPC, the enhancement means if there is a rise in the price index, automatically the enhancement of maintenance should be granted as quick as possible. With respect to the provisions of Section 127, I would like to say the litigations will be dragged on if they have been allowed to ask for the enhancement of interim maintenance also. In subsection 1, on proof of change of circumstances, any person receiving under section 125 monthly allowance for maintenance or interim maintenance or order under the same section to pay monthly allowance for maintenance or interim maintenance. So, if a person is receiving interim maintenance by virtue of order of a court, when the interim maintenance is pending, he can ask for an enhancement of maintenance. So, this will create a long of delay in disposal of the proceedings. So, what I suggest is, if for the disposal of the bail application is itself a time is fixed, this bail application should be disposed of within a period of 6 months or within a period of 1 year. There is no necessity to get another enhancement of maintenance, interim maintenance enhancement during the period. So 127 is really will create lot of confusion as far as the lower courts are concerned. So going on filing, once I will obtain interim maintenance order, after 1 month I will file another application for interim maintenance of the order. So it is better to fix it. The application should be disposed of within a period of 1 year. There is no another enhancement of maintenance in the interim period. On the other hand, I welcome the bill. It's a good proposal.
Thank you. सरोज जी, आप बहुत परेशान हैं. 5-5 सागर आपकी लहरों को देखने के लिए आ रहे हैं. श्री कपिल सिब्बल.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chairman. I commend the Minister for Law for having moved an amendment to Section 125 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. In fact, the fact that such an amendment has been moved after more than 45 years itself is proof of the fact as to how we have been very callous in our response to the needs of those destitute women who were entitled to a much higher level of maintenance. Though I support the bill, I am very surprised by the fact that the provisions do not go far enough. The first point that I wish to make is that the monthly allowance limit, which has been now done away with, the new amendment says that for an application of maintenance when it is filed in court or an order passed on that application, maintenance will start either from the date of the order or from the date when the application is made. Now, for me, this is very strange. Supposing a destitute woman takes a couple of years to actually go to a court of law and seek maintenance, because a large number of women, in fact, do not know. In a male-dominated society, they do not even know where to go. It takes a long period of time for them to get in touch with an advocate. And then they have to arrange for the means to pay that advocate and then move a court of law. Now, sometimes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years pass. The husband has left them high and dry. They have no means of livelihood. And the amendment that has now been proposed is that the maintenance will be granted to the wife either from the date of the order or from the date when the application is made. The right to maintenance cannot possibly be connected to the date when you move the court. It cannot be connected to the date when you file an application on the date when the judge decides to give you the order. A woman is entitled to maintenance the day the husband decides not to maintain her. You can't say that entitlement will go away merely because she has chosen to move the court after 2 years. So I do believe, sir, and I request the Honorable Minister to look into this matter, because it would be very unfair for women to get this right only from the date when the judge decides to pass an order, or from the date when she moves the application. That's the first point that I wish to state before this Honorable House. Or alternatively, like you have a provision in respect of arrears sometimes. You have a provision that beyond 3 years you cannot ask for them. Mean profits, for example, you have a specific provision for mean profits. The Honorable Minister knows that unless you make an application, you will not get mean profits for more than 3 years of your entitlement. Well, if within a period of 3 years, the wife asks for maintenance, then 3 years prior to the date of application, at least that she should be entitled to. So I think, again, we are committing the same folly. We are not applying our minds to the needs of that class of society which requires to be protected by us. That's point number one. The second point that I wish to make is that the proviso which has been added now, the second proviso suggests that the application for maintenance or interim maintenance should be disposed of within 60 days as far as possible. Now, sir, I suggest that the experience that we have in courts of law is even when in parallel statutes there are provisions of this nature, those applications are not disposed of within a period of 60 days. Because the language here is as far as possible. And you know, sir, the Honorable Minister knows how adjournments are taken and how matters are delayed from time to time, and months pass before applications are disposed of. I wish there had been a provision here which said that if the learned judge cannot pass an order within 60 days, the learned judge should pass a speaking order to that effect, so that he explains his inability to pass an order within 60 days and gives reasons for that, so that those reasons can be judged in a court of appeal or a court of revision. So that's the second suggestion that I have for the Honorable Minister, which the Honorable Minister might wish to look at. The third that I have, and that's the last one, is that there is a power to appeal an order either of interim maintenance or a final order, either in revision or in appeal. Since this is in the nature of a money decree, my suggestion is that an order passed by the trial court in respect of interim maintenance or an allowance, monthly allowance, should not be stayed. Should not be stayed pending the final decision in the appeal. I don't agree with the suggestion that there should be no appeal or there should be no revision. There should be. But there should not be a stay of that original order, either for the grant of interim maintenance or monthly allowance. So that protects the woman, entitles her to receive the paltry amount that women generally get, and that's the experience we all have, that just orders in this regard are seldom passed. So these are the three specific suggestions that I have for the Honorable Minister. I am sure the Minister will consider them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. देखिए दूसरा सागर आ रहा है, श्री जनेश्वर मिश्रा. The age of chivalry is not dead. ये सिंपल साहब को सुना आपने?
धन्यवाद उप सभापति महोदय. मैं सबसे पहले ये साफ कर दूं कि विधि मंत्री जी ने जो बिल पेश किया है, मैं उसका तहे दिल से समर्थन करता हूं. मैं बिल तो ये मामूली सी चीज है. नर नारी समता का सपना देखने वाले जितने लोग होंगे, उन लोगों में से एक छोटा सा आदमी मैं भी हूं. उस बड़े लक्ष्य को प्राप्त करने के लिए इस बिल का कोई माने नहीं होता, लेकिन कभी कभी कानून की नीरस धाराएं समाज के कमजोर वर्ग के लोगों को थोड़ा बहुत सहारा दे दिया करती हैं, इसलिए मैं इसका समर्थन कर रहा हूं। मैं जानता हूं कि मर्द औरत के रिश्ते कानून के नीरस रिश्ते नहीं होते, वो जज्बाती रिश्ते होते हैं, उनमें भावनाएं होती हैं,